Hello friends, welcome to the course Introduction to Advanced Cognitive Processes. I welcome you to this course as part of two groups probably. Some of you might have done the earlier course, Introduction to Basic Cognitive Processes, and some of you might be looking at this course as a new one, and you would want to do this probably without being forced to do the earlier course. Now, let me answer this in a way which will probably facilitate both the groups. This course is basically about particular cognitive processes, processes like language, processes like emotion, processes like decision making, problem solving, etc. We will be talking in some more detail about individual differences between people as far as these cognitive processes are concerned. We will be talking about certain kinds of disorders or cognitive disorders that are manifest themselves if one of these functions is not performing to the best of its ability. Now, you can be interested in this course as an extension to the earlier course, which was basic cognitive processes. Just to remind you, that course consisted of an introduction to cognitive psychology, wherein I also talked about the philosophical foundations of cognitive psychology. I also talked about some of the research methods and fundamental paradigms in cognitive psychology. Further, I talked about basic processes and called perception, attention. I talked about memory. I talked about disorders related to these processes as well. Now, why I call them basic and these advanced is not really a very important aspect that we should spend a lot of time upon. Is basically for convenience, and also it kind of borrows a little bit from Jerry Fodor's idea of horizontal and vertical modalities. So the idea is that the processes that we covered in the last course are considered horizontal faculties, basically spreading across all the cognitive functions, and they are supposed to be the basic cognitive functions on which some of the higher processes are building up. In this course, we are actually trying to talk about those higher processes as well. These processes derive or build upon those basic processes that you've read. But it does not mean in any way that if you're doing this course and you've not done that earlier course, you will be at any disadvantage. This course can be actually done with a view to understand more about these particular processes, say for example language. And let me describe what I will be talking about language in this course. I'll be talking about language as a cognitive function. I'll be talking about how language evolved, what were the basic questions which basically make language a special cognitive functions. You know, there is this very famous quote by this guy Daniel Everett, and he says that if there is one thing that separates the human species from others, is the possession of a unique culture and language. We might talk about culture and cognition in this course as well, but coming back to language, language is a unique property that humans have. It is slightly more sophisticated and slightly more specialized than the other kinds of communication systems that you might know of. See, for example, those that exist in the animal world, those that are used by whales and dolphins and bees and other kinds of animals to communicate between each other. We will actually dwell some time discussing basically why human language is unique and why it is regarded as a special function. We will be talking about production of language, we will be talking about comprehension of language, we will be talking about probably bilingualism as well. So the idea is that I will give you an in-depth analysis of how this cognitive function is structured and used by the humans, and why is it special in all its richness. We will spend some time about language disorders as well. Disorders like dyslexia, disorders like aphasia, language difficulties, and those kind of processes as well. A similar scheme will be followed for other cognitive processes as well, say for example emotion. We will talk about different theories of emotion, how are emotions manifested, how do they build upon basic cognitive processes, and what happens when somebody is experiencing what is called a disorder of emotion. What are these disorders, how do they affect our behavior, and how do we really organize our lives according to around these emotions. We will be discussing decision making, we will be discussing problem solving, we will also be talking about knowledge. Say for example, whatever information that you gain from this world, you organize that information into a particular structure, and that structure is basically what knowledge is about. If I ask you, say for example, what do you know about this world, you might remember when I'm talking about this of things like semantic memory, procedural memory, etc., which we talked about in the last course. So how do you organize your knowledge about, let us say, a particular fruit? Is it that it is a fruit and not a vegetable? Is it that it tastes sweet and not bitter? Is it that it is found in particular kind of climate or particular geographical regions? Or is it that you like this fruit so much? All of those kind of things come under knowledge. We'll also talk about visual imagery. We'll talk about things like mental rotation, etc., and how are these important cognitive functions. So the idea is that in this course, I will pick up special cognitive processes and I'll talk to you in detail about them. I will also try and spend time both on theoretical understanding and also on the state of the art research. I might pick up some of the more recent papers and discuss with you the findings of those journal articles, those research articles, as to what is the current state of understanding that we have about these special cognitive processes. This course is supposed to be a 20-hour course, which will be spread across 8 weeks. We will have 5 lectures every week. These lectures will be somewhere around 25 and 35 minutes. They will be weekly assignments that you will have to do, which will be basically objective type questions. And at the end of the course, you will be asked to give an exam, and if you give that exam, you get the certification that NPTEL provides you. And the certificate will basically mention that you did this course, which was held at IIT Kanpur, and you get that certificate, which might be useful for other purposes as well. So the idea is that this course might be a very interesting course for people, for students, masters, bachelor students, PhD students, dealing with the behavioral sciences, psychology, neuroscience, computer science, and also professionals who are dealing with human factors, who have to deal with products which humans interact with. The kind of concepts I will be covering across this course will be relevant to those people as well. I welcome you to attend this course. I welcome you to participate wholeheartedly in this course, and I hope that you enjoy the experience in this course. And I request you that once you have gone through this course and it kind of makes some sense to you, do register for the examination and achieve the all important certificate. Thank you.